baby. He is not breathing properly, please.
Ma'am, I need you to calm down.
Non-viable. We've done what we can.
Non-viable. He is my baby.
I want it placed precisely, Rivera.
Understood. Oh my
God.
Good boy. Good boy.
The baby was dying. Not slowly. Not quietly. Right there in the middle of a crowded emergency room. 11 months old, lips turning the color of a bruise, chest barely moving, tiny fingers curled like he was trying to hold onto something, onto life itself, and losing the grip. Dr. Marcus Cole saw it from across the room. He was on his way out. 12-hour shift. Coat already on. Coffee already cold. Feet already pointed toward the exit. But something made him stop. Something in the way the mother was holding that child, not cradling him, not rocking him, gripping him. The way you grip something you are terrified of losing forever. Marcus changed direction. He crossed the floor in 8 steps and looked at the baby. Then he looked at the attending physician, Dr. Stephen Grants, who was already turning away, already moving on, chart tucked under his arm like the case was closed. Grants. Marcus kept his voice level. What's the status on this child? Grants barely looked back. Non-viable. Family has no insurance on file. We've done what we can. You haven't done anything. The room went quiet. 2 nurses froze. An orderly stopped pushing his cart. Grants turned around slowly. Excuse me. I said you haven't done anything. Marcus was already crouching, already looking at the baby's neck, the coloring, the vein pattern running below the left ear. This child has a vascular compression. It's treatable. Right now. Tonight. Dr. Cole. I need Bay 4 cleared. Now. You are not the attending on this case. No. But I'm the only one in this room who actually sees what's wrong with him. So you can either help me or get out of my way. But I am not walking out of this hospital while this child is still breathing. Nobody moved for 3 full seconds. Then a nurse, young, 2nd year, name tag said Rivera, broke from the group and started moving toward Bay 4. That was enough. Marcus took the baby from the mother's arms. She grabbed his wrist with both hands, eyes wild with terror, searching his face for something, hope, certainty, anything. I've got him, Marcus said quietly. I've got him. What's his name? Jiho, she whispered. His name is Jiho. Jiho. Marcus looked down at the baby. Tiny. Fragile. Furious with the effort of existing. All right, Jiho. Let's keep you here a little longer. He walked fast. Rivera was ahead of him, clearing the bay, pulling equipment. Marcus was already running through the procedure in his head, a lateral vascular decompression, no general anesthesia, local block, microsurgical precision, 1 shot, no room for error. He had performed this procedure exactly 4 times in his career. All 4 patients survived. The next 22 minutes were the kind of silence that has weight. The kind where every sound is too loud, the clink of an instrument, the hiss of the oxygen line, the soft rhythm of the monitor. Rivera handed him tools without being asked. She anticipated every move like she had assisted him 100 times before. When it was done, when Marcus stepped back and the monitor held steady and Jiho opened his mouth and produced the single most furious, healthy, ear-splitting cry Marcus had ever heard, Rivera put both hands over her mouth. Marcus pulled his gloves off slowly. Good boy, he said softly. Good boy. He was called into Hargrove's office at 7 the next morning. Dr. Elliot Hargrove, Chief of Staff, 60 years old. The kind of man who had built his entire identity around a title and would burn the building down before he let anyone threaten it. He was already seated behind his desk when Marcus walked in, and he didn't stand, didn't extend a hand, didn't offer a seat. 3 board members sat against the far wall like witnesses at an execution. Hargrove slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. Marcus looked at it. Didn't touch it. Unauthorized procedure, Hargrove began, voice flat and rehearsed. Undermining the clinical judgment of the attending physician. Exposing this institution to significant legal liability. Reckless and insubordinate conduct unbecoming of a senior physician. The child would have died. That is not the point. That is exactly the point. Marcus kept his voice steady, but his jaw was tight. A child was dying. Your attending physician walked away. I intervened. The child is alive. If that is the conversation we're having, then let's have it honestly. Hargrove leaned back. Something moved behind his eyes, not doubt, not guilt. Satisfaction. Like he had been waiting for this moment for a long time and was going to enjoy every second of it. Effective immediately, Dr. Marcus Cole, you are terminated from Meridian General Hospital. The room was completely silent. Marcus looked at the 3 board members. Not one of them met his gaze. Not one. 11 years, Marcus said quietly. For 101 lives. And not one of you, he looked at each of them slowly, can look me in the eye right now. Nobody spoke. His badge was taken at the reception desk by a security guard who couldn't meet his eyes either. He was walked through the main corridor, past the morning shift arriving, past colleagues who looked away, past nurses who pretended to be busy, and out through the front doors into the cold Chicago morning. The doors closed behind him with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence. If you are already feeling the injustice of what just happened to this man, you're exactly where this story needs you. Hit that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and do not go anywhere, because what happens next is going to completely change everything you think you know about power. 3 months passed. Anyone who knew Marcus Cole before would not have recognized the man sitting in that dim apartment on the 4th floor of a building where the elevator had been broken since September. His savings account told a story he didn't want to read. He sold his second car, then his good furniture. Then he started doing the math on how long he could hold on to the apartment. On a Tuesday night in November, he was sitting on the floor of his living room. The chair was gone, sold 2 weeks prior, watching a video on his phone. One of his own surgeries recorded during a teaching session 3 years ago. He watched his own hands work with a detachment that frightened him slightly, like watching a stranger. His phone rang. Unknown number. He stared at it. Let it ring out. It rang again immediately. He declined it. 30 seconds later, again. This time he picked up. Who is this? The voice on the other end was calm, accented. Each word placed with the precision of a man who chose his language very carefully and wasted none of it. Dr. Cole, you don't know me, but I know a great deal about you. I know that 11 years ago you chose this city's most competitive hospital because you wanted to be tested. And I know that 3 months ago, you saved something that is more precious to me than anything else in this world. I would like to return the favor. There is a car outside your building right now. I hope very much that you will come. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. For floors down on the dark street below, a black Mercedes sat idling at the curb. Who are you? Marcus asked. Someone who pays his debts. I'll explain everything in person. But Dr. Cole, I would ask you not to keep me waiting too long. I am not accustomed to it. Marcus looked at the phone, then at the car, then at the empty room around him, the bare floor, the stack of unpaid bills, the surgical video still playing silently on his phone screen, his own hands moving with a confidence he no longer recognized. He grabbed his coat. The driver said nothing the entire ride. The Mercedes moved through downtown Chicago and kept moving into the older western edge of the city where the buildings got quieter and the streets got narrower and the lighting got deliberately scarce. They stopped outside what looked like a converted warehouse. No signage. 2 men in dark suits stood at the entrance with the stillness of people who had been trained to stand very still. And then a room. Dark wood. Low light. The smell of green tea and something older, cedar, maybe, or time itself. And behind a desk that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of ancient tree, a man. 72 years old. White-haired. Hands folded on the desk with the patience of someone who had learned that all things come to those who are powerful enough to wait. On the desk between them one photograph. A baby. Laughing. Full-cheeked, bright-eyed, radiantly, furiously alive. Marcus recognized him immediately. My grandson, the man said. Jiho. He looked at the photograph for a moment with something that cracked the careful composure just slightly, just enough to be human. You gave him back to us, Dr. Cole. I did my job, Marcus said. No. The man looked up. You did something far beyond your job. You did what was right when every system around you was designed to make doing the right thing impossible. That is not a job. That is character. He gestured to the chair across the desk. My name is Dae-jung Yoon. You may call me Chairman Yoon. And before we go any further, I think there are some things you should know about the hospital that fired you. He slid a folder across the desk. Marcus opened it. Inside, corporate documents. Shell companies layered inside holding companies layered inside investment groups. Names leading to names leading at the very center to one name. Yoon Capital Partners. Marcus looked up slowly. You own Meridian General. I have owned it for 9 years. You're telling me the man who runs the organization that owns the hospital that fired me is the grandfather of the baby I saved? Yes. And you didn't know they fired me. I was informed 1 week after it occurred. The individuals responsible for that decision made it without my knowledge. They will not make decisions without my knowledge again. So, what do you want from me? Yoon poured tea into a second cup and pushed it gently across. I want to offer you a position, Dr. Cole. Private physician to my organization. Your own clinic, fully equipped, better than anything Meridian had. A salary that will make your previous compensation look like an insult, which, frankly, it was. Complete medical autonomy. And Dr. Hargrove's complaint to the medical board will be withdrawn. Your license fully reinstated within 72 hours. And in return, you treat the people I send to you. People who, for various reasons, cannot walk into a public hospital. You give them the same standard of care you gave my grandson. Nothing more. Nothing less. Marcus picked up the tea. Held it. Didn't drink. I have conditions, he said. For the first time, Chairman Yoon smiled. It was a small smile. But it was real. Of course you do, he said. That is precisely why I chose you. Right now you're thinking, is Marcus really about to say yes? And what happens when he does? Don't you dare touch that back button. Subscribe if you're new, drop a comment telling me if you would have taken that deal, and stay right here because Batch 3 is where everything catches fire. Marcus set the conditions out one by one with the same calm precision he used in surgery. No performance. No negotiation tactics. Just clarity. First, every patient who comes through my door gets treated. I don't care who they are, what they've done, or what their relationship is to your organization. If they need medical attention, they get it. No exceptions. Yoon nodded. Second, inside that clinic, I am the only authority. Medical decisions are mine alone. Nobody overrules me. Agreed. Third, I will never be asked to harm anyone under the pretense of treatment. Of course. Fourth, if I decide to walk away, I walk away clean. No threats. No consequences. Yoon placed his hands flat on the desk. Dr. Cole, I have dealt with many people over many years, politicians, judges, generals, criminals of every variety. You know what most of them have in common? They negotiate from fear. They tell me what I want to hear. You are sitting in front of me, a man with no money, no license, no leverage of any kind, and you are dictating terms to me. He paused. I find that extraordinarily refreshing. All 4 conditions. Agreed. Without modification. Marcus picked up the pen. And he signed. The clinic was on the 3rd floor of a building that looked, from the outside, like a logistics company. Inside, it was something else entirely. The equipment was newer than anything Marcus had used at Meridian. 2 full surgical bays. A recovery ward with 6 beds. A diagnostics room with imaging technology that most city hospitals were still waiting on budget approval for. Grace Obi, head nurse, former military medic, 44 years old, shook his hand with a grip that told him she had seen more crisis situations than most surgeons twice her age. Dr. Cole, I've read your file. All of it. I have 2 rules. You tell me what you need before you need it, and you do not waste my time with instructions I've already anticipated. We'll get along fine. His first week was quieter than he expected. A courier with a shattered collarbone. An enforcer with a knife wound. A woman in her late 60s, Yoon's sister, with a cardiac arrhythmia that had been misdiagnosed by 3 separate cardiologists as anxiety. Marcus spent 2 hours with her going through her complete cardiac history before identifying the specific conduction abnormality that every other doctor had missed. When he told her, she took his hand in both of hers. "You are the first doctor," she said quietly, who actually listened. And then, on a Wednesday night 6 weeks in, they brought in the man who changed everything. 2:17 a.m. Marcus was finishing notes when he heard the doors. Fast footsteps. Grace's voice, sharp, directing. He was on his feet before he fully processed the movement. The man on the gurney had been beaten with the specific thoroughness of people who know exactly how much punishment a body can take. 2 gunshot wounds, one in the left shoulder, one dangerously close to the lower right lung. Pulse present but weak. Blood pressure falling. Bay 1. Now. "Grace, I need 2 units of O-negative, full surgical prep. Get Felix on the thoracic tray." "Already moving," Grace said. What followed was 3 hours and 40 minutes of the most demanding surgery Marcus had performed since arriving at the clinic. The bullet near the lung had nicked the lower lobe, and he spent 90 minutes working in a space the size of his fist. At one critical point, "I'm losing him." "Grace, you have him. Keep going. 30 seconds more. There. I have him." When the man woke, Marcus recognized him instantly. Detective Raymond Okafor, Chicago PD. The investigator who had been publicly pursuing a case against Yoon's organization for 26 months. Marcus turned slowly to Mr. Park standing at the door. He needs 72 hours of complete monitored recovery before anyone has any conversation with him. He is my patient. Those are the medical requirements. Park studied him, then reached for his phone. Over 48 hours, Marcus and Okafor talked. The detective told him what 2 years of investigation had revealed, that Yoon's organization, while ruthless, had been the only barrier between Chicago and a far more savage Serbian syndicate trying to take over the city's underworld. Yoon keeps his violence controlled, almost surgical in its precision. The alternative to Yoon isn't peace. It's chaos. When Okafor was well enough to leave, Marcus arranged it quietly. The detective was gone before Park arrived that morning. Park found Marcus in the clinic, cleaning instruments. "The chairman would like you to know he considers that matter closed." "Good," Marcus said without looking up. "So do I. Drop a comment right now, would you have protected that detective?" Because Marcus just put himself between a crime lord and a cop and told them both no. If you are as locked into the story as I think you are, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hold on. Batch 4 is where Hargrove finds out exactly who he fired, and it is devastating. Detective Raymond Okafor woke 31 hours after surgery. Marcus was there when he did, sitting in the chair beside the bed, reviewing charts. "Am I dead?" he said. "No." "Am I in a hospital?" "Of a kind." Okafor tried to sit up. Marcus put one hand on his shoulder, not forceful, just firm. "You have a repaired lung and a reconstructed shoulder. You need to stay flat for at least another 24 hours, or I will have wasted the most difficult surgery I've performed in 3 years. Please don't make me regret saving you." The detective stared at him. "You're a doctor." "Yes." "And this is—" He looked around. Something was processing behind his eyes. The detective's mind assembling information, reading context, arriving at conclusions. "This is Yoon's operation. You're recovering from 2 gunshot wounds. This isn't the time for investigation. It's always the time." But Okafor sank back. "You saved my life. That's what I do. Here. In Yoon's clinic." He looked at Marcus steadily. "Who are you?" "Dr. Marcus Cole. I used to work at Meridian General." Something moved across Okafor's face. "Recognition. You're the doctor they fired." "The baby." "Yes. And now you work for Yoon." "I work for myself," Marcus said carefully. "I practice medicine in a facility that Yoon funds. The distinction matters to me." "Does he know who I am?" "Yes. And I'm still alive. Because you're my patient. And my conditions were very clear." The detective looked at him for a long time. "You used your medical authority to protect me." "I used my medical authority to provide appropriate care to a critically injured patient. What you read into that is your business." Okafor almost smiled. "You're either the bravest man I've met in 20 years on the force or the most foolish." "In my experience," Marcus said, picking up his chart, "those are usually the same thing." They talked. Okafor told him what 26 months of investigation had produced. He talked about Yoon's organization, its reach, its structure, its history. He talked about the violence, because there was violence, and Marcus deserved to know that clearly. But he also talked about the other thing. Yoon is not the worst thing in this city. I know how that sounds. There is a Serbian syndicate that has been trying to move into Chicago for 4 years. Every time they've gotten traction, Yoon has pushed them back. Not because Yoon is noble, because this is his city. But the side effect is that Dragovic's people stay out. And Dragovic's people are the kind of organization that leaves bodies in schools. Marcus said nothing for a while. Does that change anything for you? Okafor asked. I'm a doctor, Marcus said finally. I treat the damage in front of me. I don't choose my patients based on their philosophy. On the 3rd day, Marcus arranged the detectives' exit quietly. By the time Park arrived, Okafor was already gone. The chairman would like you to know, Park said, that the matter is considered closed. Good, Marcus said. So do I. What Marcus didn't know was that 3 days later, Dr. Elliot Hargrove made the worst decision of his professional life. Feeling untouchable, because men like Hargrove always felt untouchable right until the moment they weren't, he contacted a journalist at the Chicago Tribune. A full character assassination. Rogue surgeon Marcus Cole. The truth behind the termination. Designed to permanently close every door Marcus might ever try to walk through. The article published on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Chairman Yoon had read it twice. He set the paper down with the careful precision of a man who had learned that controlled movements are more powerful than dramatic ones. He looked at Mr. Park. Said 2 words. Fix it. Within 72 hours, without a single law being broken, 3 of Hargrove's former patients emerged with long-suppressed malpractice stories, documents that were quietly settled under NDAs, now mysteriously unsealed. A state financial audit of Hargrove's department, triggered by an anonymous tip, revealed 7 years of systematic billing fraud. The hospital board received a letter from their majority shareholder, Chairman Yoon's holding company, demanding Hargrove's immediate resignation or face a full corporate review. 2 board members who signed Marcus's termination letter quietly resigned the same week. Hargrove was finished. Completely. Publicly. Permanently. Marcus was in the clinic when Grace quietly turned on the small television in the corner. Live news. Hargrove stepping down. Investigation pending. Career over. Marcus watched in silence. Mr. Park stood beside him. Did you know this was coming? Marcus asked. The chairman simply ensured that the truth had enough room to breathe. And the hospital? Under new management. Effective next month. Who is the new chief of medical staff? A Dr. Rivera. Previously a nurse at Meridian General. The chairman felt she had been significantly underestimated. Marcus turned. Rivera? The nurse who assisted you the night you saved Jiho, yes. Marcus looked back at the screen. Something in his posture was different. Lighter. Tell the chairman, tell him thank you. Not for me. For her. He will be pleased that was your first thought. He never went back to Meridian General. The clinic grew. Quietly, without announcement, the way things grow when they are rooted in something real. Patients who had no insurance, no connections, no options found their way to the 3rd floor of an unmarked building on the western edge of Chicago. Marcus turned none of them away. Chairman Yoon visited once a month. Always with tea. Always with Jiho, who grew from a baby who could barely sit to a toddler who launched himself at Marcus with the fearless confidence of a child who had never once been told there was anything to be afraid of. On one of those afternoons, Yoon looked at Marcus and said, "Do you regret it? Any of it?" Marcus thought about it honestly. "I regret that it took losing everything to find this," he said. "But no, I don't regret this." Yoon nodded slowly. "Neither do I." Jiho, sitting on the floor between them, looked up at the sound of their voices and laughed the full, uncomplicated laugh of a child who is completely, perfectly, furiously alive. And Dr. Marcus Cole, the man they threw away for doing the right thing, sat in the shadow of an empire that had caught him when he fell and understood, finally, completely, without question, that some purposes are too large for the places that first contain them. He had been built for this. All of it. Even the fall. And that is the full story of Dr. Marcus Cole. If this story moved you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories that hit different. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was the moment that got you the most? I read every single comment. Thank you for staying until the end. See you in the next one.